Hey, and welcome to Board with Life News for May 25th. Today I'm going to talk about the Spiel des Jahres nominees, as well as the Kenner Spiel des Jahres nominees, a reprint of FINCA, as well as the Kickstarter for World Championship Russian Roulette. Let's get to it. Hey, I'm Chris. Welcome to Board with Life News. I'm going to be at BGGCon Spring this weekend, so if you are also going to be there, make sure you stop by and say hello. I'll just be around playing games and whatever, so make sure come up and introduce yourself and whatever, because I like to meet you guys, and I'm pretty excited about that. All right, on to board game news. The huge news of the week, of course, is the Spiel des Jahres nominees. The Spiel des Jahres is the German Game of the Year award, and it's generally regarded as the biggest award in board gaming. So they released their nominees. There are 3 this year. First up is, no surprise, it's CODENAMES. This is going to be far and away the favorite to win this. CODENAMES had a huge splash by Vlaada Chvátil. They're upsets pretty regularly in the Spiel des Jahres, but this would be a huge upset if CODENAMES doesn't take it this year. I'm a big fan of it. Lots of people are big fans of it. Also nominated was Karuba by Rudiger Dorn. This is a hobby game, and hobby expanded out from kind of kids games into more hobby games. So they're getting this is probably their first Spiel des Jahres nomination, because their games are usually in the Kinderspiel category, which is the children's game category. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I've heard good things. Also, IMHOTEP, this is by Phil Walker Harding. This isn't out in America yet, but they actually moved the release date up a little bit, so I think it's coming out in about a month or so. And I also haven't had a chance to play this game because it's not out in America yet, but I'm a big fan of Phil Walker Harding. He designed Sushi Go and Cacao, and I really like his kind of viewpoint on games and how simple and accessible his games are. They also had some recommended games in the Spiel des Jahres this year. The first was Agent Undercover, which is, I think, Spyfall in America, which I like a lot. Animals on Board, Die Friesen 7, Crazy Words, and Quinto. They also announced the Kenner Spiel des Jahres, and this is, I forget what their actual wording is, but it's slightly more complicated games, right? More hobby or adult strategy games are in this category. First up is Isle of Skye. I am a huge fan of Isle of Skye. If you watched our top 10 video that we did, top 10 games of last year, I think it was my number 3, maybe my number 2. And since then, it might have even moved up to my number 1. I absolutely love that game. I can't get it to the table enough. I'm a little surprised it's in the Kenner Spiel, because it's a pretty simple game. It's not much more complicated than any of the Spiel ones. So I feel like it could have gotten a Spiel nomination, but it's in the Kenner. Up next is Pandemic Legacy, which is, of course, going to be the front runner in this category. Pandemic Legacy hit with a huge splash, shooting up to the number 1 game on BGG. So this would also be a pretty huge upset if this didn't win. It's pretty revolutionary in terms of game design. And also nominated was Time Stories, which was also pretty revolutionary, but it's probably going to get overshadowed by Pandemic Legacy this year, I bet. I'm not a huge fan of Time Stories. I think it's okay, but I'm certainly a fan of kind of the narrative that it's introducing into board games and the ideas behind it. They also announced some recommendations, which included Seven Wonders Duel, Blood Rage, and Mombasa, which I've played all of those games, and I quite like all of those games, so good recommendations all around. Crash of Games announced that they will be doing a reprint of FINCA. FINCA was a game that was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres, I think, back in 2009. In it, you are collecting fruit, but you can't move anywhere on the board. You're limited kind of by where other people have placed their workers and how they move. It's a very interesting game. It's got some really nice wooden components, little fruit and things like that. So I'm very excited to see kind of what Patrick of Crash Games is going to do to bring that game over here in a much needed reprint. The Kickstarter for this week is for World Championship Russian Roulette. This is a bluffing team game for 2 to 6 players, designed by Anthony Birch, who was head writer of Borderlands and now works for Rocket Jump. You also might have seen him on Board with Life. We have him in our show occasionally. And it's from Tuesday Night Games that made the very popular 2 Rooms and a Boom party game. The artwork's great. It's by the guy who did the Brazilian Coup, if you've seen that. He's a Brazilian artist. He does kind of dark stuff. He also did The Bloody N. I'm a big fan of that. And this is a fun kind of team bluffing strategy game where you're all playing Russian roulette, but you have action cards that let you do different things, and you bluff and maybe take a bullet out of your gun, but if you get caught taking the bullet out of your gun, then you get punished. All sorts of cool stuff going on with this game. Also, if you go watch the Kickstarter video, you might see some familiar faces, because the Board of Life crew produced their video, and it's pretty good, because we're good at videos, guys. It is $25 right now on Kickstarter, so go back that if that sounds interesting to you. All right, that's the news for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Chris Bryan Games. Make sure you go follow Moonrat while you're at it, at I'm Bored with Life, to see kind of everything that we're doing and keep up with all that. As I mentioned at the beginning, I will be at BGGCon Spring this weekend, so definitely seek me out there if you're going to be there. This week's question comes from at Batman12338 via Twitter, and they ask, what is one tabletop game that you wish you had never learned or picked up? Either because it's so addicting or because it was so bad. I'm not going to talk about games that I thought were that bad because I don't need to just crap on bad games for no reason. I certainly have some, but and I'm also not going to say a tabletop game because I was trying to think of this about ones that I've got so addicted to, and I couldn't think of one. I think because tabletop games inherently limit me on how much I can play them because I need other people to play them generally. So I've certainly got addicted to a lot of trading card games back in the day, like the Pokemon trading card game, the Dragon Ball Z trading card game, Spoils, Marvel Versus system, all sorts of them. So I spent a lot of money on trading card games. I did it as well with Marvel Dice Masters. But so maybe those would be the answers. But the one that I really am so addicted to that I can't allow myself to play it is Hearthstone, which is basically a digital trading card game. And if I sit down to play a game of Hearthstone, I can just sit down and play 7 hours worth of Hearthstone instead of doing anything else productive. So that's one that I actually had stopped playing for almost an entire year, and I just put it back on my phone not too long ago, and it's totally eaten into my time, and I need to delete it again. So thanks for rubbing that in, Batman12338 or whatever your name was. So yeah, Hearthstone. That game's very addictive. Thanks so much for tuning into the news, and I will see you next week.